Welcome to episode 72 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is MyLinda Butterworth, and today we continue with the tales of Troy with the story of Polydorus. And now the heroes took counsel about the most precious part of their spoils, the boy, Polydorus, son of the king of Troy. After a brief discussion, they decided that Odysseus and Diomedes should be sent to Priam to offer him his young son in exchange for Helen. Menelaus, Helen's husband, was appointed a third envoy, and the three set out with young Polydorus. The Trojans admitted them to their city without demurring, for envoys were held sacred according to the laws which governed the intercourse between nations. Priam and his sons, remote from the city in their palace on the acropolis, had not even heard what was happening below when the envoys arrived in the marketplace of Troy. Surrounded by throngs of Trojans, Menelaus addressed his audience, complaining bitterly of the grave breach of hospitality Paris had committed by carrying off his most prized possession, Helen, his wife. He spoke so eloquently and with such ardor that the crowd among them, the elders and leaders of Troy, were moved by his words. They wept tears of pity for his plight and agreed that his claims were just. When Odysseus observed which way the wind was blowing, he too began to speak. "Elders and citizens of Troy," he said, "I think you should know that the Argives are not a people to embark lightly on any enterprise, and that it has always been their custom to look for glory in all they undertake. Even after the outrage we suffered with Paris, the son of your king, carried off Helen, an Argive princess, we sent peaceful envoys to you to settle this matter in friendly fashion before we prepared to take to arms. It was only when our embassy failed that war began, and it began with an attack of your men against ours. Even now that you have felt our strength, now that cities allied or subject to you lie in ruins, and you yourselves have suffered the hardships long siege brings with it, a happy issue from our quarrel is still within your power. Give up to us what was taken from us, and we shall instantly break camp, board our ships, weigh anchor, and forever leave your coast, with a fleet that has already done you so much harm. Nor do we make this offer empty-handed. We are bringing your king a treasure which should be far dearer to him than the stranger in your city, who has been forced to shelter to his disadvantage and yours. We bring Polydorus, his youngest son, whom Ajax took from King Polynester, and who now stands before you, waiting your decision and that of the king. This very day give us Helen, and we shall loose the bonds of the boy and return him to his father's house. If you refuse, your city will be destroyed, and before that your king will have to look on what he would give his life not to see." When Odysseus had ended, deep silence prevailed among the Trojans. At last, Antenor, aged and wise, answered, "You Argives, who were once my dear guests, all that you say we know ourselves, and in our hearts we agree with you. But though we have the will to mend this matter, we lack the power. We live in a state in which the king is all-powerful. The laws of our realm, the faith we have inherited from our fathers, and the conscience of our people deter us from revolt against his commands. Only if the king summons us to council are we permitted to speak on public affairs, and when we have spoken, he is still free to do as he wishes. But that you may know what the best among our people think concerning your claim, our elders will assemble and speak their minds in your presence. This is all we can do, and even the king cannot deny us that right." And so it was. Antenor called a council of the elders, and the envoys attended to him. One by one, he asked the foremost among his people what they thought of high-handed Paris, and one by one they declared his action insolent and lawless. Only Antimachus, a man full of malice and eager for battle, defended the rape of the Argive princess. Paris had bribed him with many gifts so that he might take his part whenever occasion demanded, and speak against the return of Helen to her people. Now, too, he worked towards this end, and behind the backs of the elders he counseled the Trojans to kill the 3 brave and wise heroes whom the Achaeans had set as envoys. When they refused, he advised them to hold prisoner Odysseus, Diomedes, and Menelaus, at least until they had yielded up their captive Polydorus without ransom or any talk of exchange. This counsel was also rejected, and since Antimachus would not stop mocking at the Argive heroes, even in public assembly, his fellow citizens drove him from their midst with sharp words to show the envoys that they disapproved of his advice and his unprincipled behavior. Angrily, Antimachus hastened to the acropolis and told the king what had taken place. And now Priam and his sons held council, and noble Panthous, his trusted friend, was with them. For a long time they argued the matter, some saying one thing, some another. At last Panthous turned to Hector, the bravest and the most just and virtuous of Priam's sons, and begged him to yield to the council the best among the Trojans and surrender the cause of this war. Helen, who had brought nothing but disaster to her host. Paris, he said, has now had many years in which to enjoy the possession he acquired so unfairly, and also to suffer for his delight. The cities which were our allies are destroyed, and their fall forewarns us of our own fate. Add to this that the Argives have your little brother in their power, and that we do not know what will become of him if we refuse to give them Helen. Hector reddened with shame, and tears welled up in his eyes when he thought of the infamous act of Paris. Nevertheless, he did not speak in favor of delivering up the stolen princess. "She is one who sought protection in our house," he answered Panthous. "We must not forget that. As such, we received her. Had we thought otherwise, we should not have permitted her to cross the threshold of the palace. Not only did we let her enter, we even built her and Paris a palace of their own, where they have lived in luxury and pleasure for many years. And none of you opened his mouth against it, though you knew that war was inevitable. Why should we drive her from us now?" "I did speak out," Panthous replied. "My conscience is clear. I told you of my father's prophecy. I warned you, and I warn you again. Come what will, I shall faithfully help you defend the king and the city, even if you do not do as I say." And with these words he left the council of the princes. At Hector's suggestion, they at last came to the decision that they would not give up Helen, but would replace with gifts of equal value everything which had been carried off along with her. In her stead, they would offer Menelaus one of the daughters of King Priam to wedlock, wise Cassandra, or flower-like Polyxena, with her royal dowry. When the Argive envoys were brought before the king and faced with this proposal, Menelaus grew very angry. "Things have indeed come to a pretty pass," he said. "If after years of doing without the woman of my choice, I must let my enemies select a wife for me, keep your barbarian daughters, and return to me her whom I wedded when I was young." Then uprose Aeneas, husband of Crisa, and son-in-law of Priam, and harshly cried out to Prince Menelaus, who had spoken with a scornful smile, "If it depended on me and the word of all those who love Paris and hold high the honor of this ancient house of kings, you should have neither the one nor the other. The kingdom of Priam still has men who will protect it, and if the boy Polydorus, the son of his concubine, be lost to him, Priam has many other sons. Shall we encourage the Argives to carry off more women? But enough talk. If you do not instantly leave with that fleet of yours, you shall feel the strength of the Trojans. We have countless young warriors thirsting to fight, and every day more and more great and powerful allies are joining us, even if those nearby weakened and were conquered." These words of Aeneas were greeted with tumultuous applause on the part of the Trojan princes, and had it not been for Hector, the envoys would have suffered rough treatment at their hands. These, ill suppressing their rage, left with Polydorus, whom King Priam had seen only from afar, and returned to their ships. When the news spread with the reception they had met with in Troy, news of the malice of Antimachus and the arrogance of Aeneas and all the sons of Priam, except Hector, the Argives gathered in a riotous mob and angrily called for revenge. Without even consulting the princes, a disorderly and confused ensemble resolved to visit the wrongs of Priam and his sons on the luckless Polydorus, and they at once set about carrying out their verdict. The boy was taken within range of the walls of Troy, and the moment King Priam and his sons appeared on the walls, called out by the great throngs and the loud clamor, the first moan of pain broke from the child's lips. With their own eyes, the Trojans were forced to witness the execution of the threat Odysseus had uttered. From all sides, stones flew at the boy's bare head and unprotected body, until, struck down by countless missiles, he died a cruel and miserable death. The Argive princes gave permission for the shattered corpse to be returned to Priam for honorable burial. Soon, the king's servants, accompanied by Odysseus, a hero of Troy, came and with many tears laid the boy's body in the wagon which was to take him to his unhappy father. And here ends my tale for today, but I'll be back with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.